A lot of good sessions. I see some familiar faces. Some of you were in some of my earlier classes, so thank you for sticking around, for coming to this session. This is one of my favorite sessions. I go on the road a lot, and I do a lot of speaking and training when it comes to social media, and I have the good fortune of working with a lot of clients in terms of helping them figure out their social media strategy. And I'm really excited about what I'm going to be talking about this afternoon, which is creating a content strategy. How many of you were in my last class I just did about honing your strategy? Okay, awesome. So this really kind of ducktails into that. I talked a lot about different platforms, and I'm going to touch on some of that in here as well. So a little bit of duplication, but one of the main things I'm going to talk about today is really, digging into content, figuring out what content, where to get it, all that good stuff. It's a really important piece of your marketing, especially when you think about social and really taking your social to the next level. It's ironic, right before I came on stage, between this last session and this session, I had a call with one of my clients, and we're having this exact conversation. They just recently launched a new blog, and I said, well, what are your plans with this blog? And she said, well, that's a good question. That's why we hired you. So we'll be working on their content strategy, but it's a huge, huge thing to talk about, especially in real estate. I want to start off with, there's my information too, if you don't have it. I'm on Twitter at Katie Lance. A few months ago, I went on my Facebook page and asked my friends and colleagues, just sort of informally, do you have business that you can attribute because of friendships that you developed through social media? And I got a number of responses, and I wanted to share some of them with you. So Ryan Huckel, he's an agent out in Oklahoma City, had said, absolutely, last time I tracked it, social media was bringing in 80% of my business. Karen Bigos, she's an agent in New Jersey, said, I can directly track over $30 million in sales to Facebook relationships. It may even be higher. Last night I listed a home in Summit, New Jersey for $1.75 million directly because of Facebook. 14 deals in 13 months because of Facebook. And I share all of this with you because, for those of you who were here earlier when I talked about relationship building and infusing your own personality and your own personal brand into social media, I look at a lot of the people who I'm good friends with, a lot of really good agents and brokers, and one of the reasons why I see them being successful on social is I know their backstory. And the backstory is that they have a strategy. They have especially a content strategy. And so, content is really king. It's a little bit of a cliche. It's really true. If you're going down the road of trying to figure out what you're going to do in Facebook or LinkedIn or any other social platform, at some point you're going to say, what am I supposed to post today? And if you don't have a strategy, it's a little bit like saying, what am I going to do today? And that's not a strategy, of course. I always like to say content is king, but context is really king. Meaning it's one thing to have, articles that you're going to tweet out or pictures that you're going to post, but the context and timing is really important. And I really feel like it's more important than ever. Because if you go, if you were to go on your Facebook news feed today, you would see, so many different things, right? People posting pictures and articles and this and that. And the things that do really well, right, where there's a lot of comments and shares and engagement, are things that are really relevant, right? That are really kind of catching people at the right time. I look at this post we did when I was at Inman News. And this was a post we did right around Christmas time, talking about 12 fire safety tips for the holidays. And this particular post had 44 shares, 19 likes, two comments. At the time, it was one of the posts that we had much more shares than we ever had before. And one of the reasons was because of the context, because of the timing. And so I'm going to talk a lot today about content and where to get content and using an editorial calendar. I'm going to talk about that. But the other piece of it is context. Are you posting something at 7 in the morning that's really not relevant until maybe dinner time, right? And thinking of when people are on their devices. Half the time when people are on Facebook, they're on their mobile device, right? So really looking at the context. The other piece of context is how much are you posting, right? When you're on your mobile device and you're scrolling through Facebook, and I don't know about you, but if I see a post and then it says see more, I'm not always willing to click that to open it up. Right? So thinking of what's the experience of the person who's looking at this, right? Keeping it, short and sweet if possible, keeping it timely, keeping it relevant. I always like to say, Without a strategy, you're just throwing something against the wall and hoping it'll stick, right? It's like trying to throw spaghetti against the wall and hoping it'll stick. So I want to share with you something that has really made a big difference in a lot of the agents that I've been able to work with, a lot of the clients I've been able to work with, and that is a content grid. So this is a content grid. Some people call it an editorial calendar. And what this is a really simple way for you to look at the type of content that you want to post, to look at what your brand is, to really kind of put a plan together when it comes to your social media strategy. I have up here a link to my website. If you go to katielance.com and sign up for my email newsletter, you'll get a free copy of this and plus a bunch of other kind of free stuff. And I promise I won't spam you or anything like that. But I know there's a lot of information on here. So if you want a free copy of it, just go to the website. So what you're looking at here is actually 32 days worth of content ideas. And I mentioned in my last session the importance of thinking ahead with social media. I think that's one of the things most people kind of lack. They sort of live in the moment. Like, we're at an event and I'm going to take a picture, but they don't think about what am I going to post tomorrow? Or what is my weekend strategy going to look like, right? And I talked about some tools and things like that, which I'm going to bring up again in a minute, but thinking ahead and thinking of what am I going to post later this month or even the month after that. You'll see here that these are topic ideas. If you really wanted to get granular, you could, write out the entire post and put it in your calendar. But I personally don't like to do that because I still think that there's a piece of social where you want it to be organic, you want it to be real. And so the way a lot of people use this, in fact, I was just talking to a few people at lunch today about this, is that, a lot of times people will just print this up, kind of go old school, print it up, put it on the bulletin board, right near their laptop or wherever. And when they're thinking of their content, when they're planning out what are they going to post for the week or the month, this is what they're looking at, right, to really gain inspiration. And so I want to walk through each one of these pieces right here. There's four buckets of content. The first bucket is local real estate. So these are things like favorite feature of a listing. I always say, don't just talk about listings on social media, but get creative. Maybe it's a beautiful photo of a view. Maybe it's the really cool kitchen knobs on the kitchen, I was going to say kitchen counter, but the kitchen cabinets. Getting creative with that. Story of a past client, neighborhood information. One of the things I love most about agents is you guys know your neighborhoods, your communities better than anyone. So, really kind of tapping into some of that neighborhood information that you know. Local market stats, home improvement tips. That's a really important piece of your content strategy is local. The second piece of it is national real estate. So I think it's important for your strategy to post things that are local, because obviously real estate's local. But there's also a great opportunity to post things that are national. So articles like from the Wall Street Journal or Forbes or the New York Times or Inman News that talk about housing or real estate or what's going on in the economy. Comparing home prices. Zillow does this every Tuesday. They have on their Facebook page Taste Test Tuesday. Kind of a mouthful, where they'll put up two beautiful homes, same price point, and they'll say, which one do you like better? This one or this one, right? And it's a fun way to talk about a house, and then by the way, underneath they have a link to the listing. So thinking about how you can talk about homes, either homes you've sold or homes that are on the market in really kind of a creative way. The third bucket right here is local and community. This is a really important piece of the whole strategy is, obviously, real estate is so much more than the house. It's so much more than the building or the condo or whatever it is. It's what does it feel like to live in that community, right? How close is it to downtown? What are the schools like? And all of that local information is key. The best place to get a burger, the best place to get a cup of coffee. If you can infuse some of that local content, local information that you think, oh, what's the big deal? It's amazing. Just 2 weeks ago, I was in Boston for another event, and one of my good agent friends was driving me around, and we had 3 hours, and he was showing me where he lives in Boston, and I loved it. He was like, this building, was founded by so-and-so, and then this restaurant, and I told him, I said, you know what? I love real estate agents because you know all these things, right? And you might think, what's the big deal? But all those little pieces of content about your neighborhood are awesome for social media. Personal interests. For those of you who were in some of my other classes, you heard me talk a lot about personal and the importance of it can't just be all about business. So when you look at your strategy for what you're going to post to Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or any other social media strategy, there's got to be a personal piece of it. And it's going to be different for all of you. You know, some of you might be more comfortable sharing more personal things. Some of you may not be as much. But finding something that is personal that you're comfortable connecting with. You know, I mentioned earlier today, and it's really worth repeating, that people connect with things that are personal to you. You know, whether you're a mom or a grandmother, or you're a dog person, or you're a foodie, or you love to cook, whatever those things are, those are things that, you know, you may think, what's the big deal? But those are things that are important to you, that people connect with you, and you connect with other people who are similar to you as well. So including some of those in there. So, like I said, this whole grid is generic enough where literally, probably almost any of you could take it and implement it right away into your business. But obviously, one of the nice things too is that you can edit it, you can really kind of create it and make it your own based on your own personal brand. So how did I create all that? So there's a few different ways to create a content grid. The first is Google Docs or Google Drive. I'm a big fan of Google Docs, Google Drive, especially if you're working with your social media strategy and you've got somebody else who's working with you. So if you have another agent, or you've got an assistant, or a marketing person that needs kind of access to your calendar or your content strategy, a Google Doc is a great document. We used to use this at Inman News all the time. We had an editorial calendar. So I'd be able to edit it, and then our editorial manager would be able to edit it, and you can see in real time when people are making changes. Evernote, anybody use Evernote in here? All right, that's a loaded question because I know at least half of you use Evernote. Evernote's a great way to manage your content. Great app. If you haven't used Evernote, I could teach a whole class about Evernote. Google or Outlook calendar. You know, if you use Outlook, just the calendar feature in it is great. A Google Calendar, a couple of the clients I work with, we have a specific Google Calendar just for their content, right? And we go in and we look at their content grid and we plug in 30 days worth of content ideas on their Google Calendar. You know, it doesn't work for everybody, but that's definitely an option. If you're the kind of person that needs everything right on your calendar, so you see it all the time. Excel spreadsheet, that always works too. And, you know, you can always go old school with a pen and paper. I'm a big fan of pen and paper, by the way. So a lot of different ways that you can, and Post-it notes for those of you who know me. Content grid must-haves. So I shared with you sort of a generic content grid that you can implement into your business. But if you're creating one from scratch, there's a few things that you want to make sure you implement. So the first thing is your buckets of content. And by buckets of content is just another word for categories. So in the content grid I showed you 4 categories: local real estate, national real estate, community, and personal. And those are, again, would probably apply to all of you, but you might have a 5th bucket or a 5th, kind of a topic idea. So topic ideas, one of the ways that you can get topic ideas is think about things that you talk about often. What are things that people ask you? What are emails that you're sending out? If you find that you're, giving sort of that same information all the time in email, I always say look in your sent box. A lot of times what you're sending out in your sent box is great information that you could post to your social networks. And then of course the last thing is a list of go-to sources. So it's great to have all these ideas of what to post, but then you need to figure out where am I going to get content from. And I remember when I first really sort of dove into social media strategy and figuring out what I was going to do, that was a big piece of it. One of the first jobs I had that required social media was for a real estate company in 2005. And 2005 was really kind of the infancy of social media. And I remember thinking, okay, I need to get a system together if we're going to do this Facebook thing, if we're going to do this blog thing. And one of the first things we did is we said, okay, what are going to be my go-to sources? If I need to post content every day to Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, and we're going to use this to build business for the brokerage, how are we going to make this work? And so I brainstormed a list of 5 or 7 sources, websites, that I would go to every morning and take 10 minutes. Every morning, and look for interesting articles, things that I thought were interesting to send out. Things like information from your local chamber of commerce, information from the Wall Street Journal, just different websites that I found were valuable. Here's kind of a few ideas in terms of go-to sites, and you're all going to have different go-to sites depending on your market. Your local downtown association, if you have a local city website, usually most cities have like the city website, and then there's some sort of, other sort of downtown association or some other city site associated with that. That's always a great site because it's local content. Chamber of Commerce, patch.com is a great source, Patch, great source. It's not available in every city, but Patch is great because there's local bloggers that contribute to Patch, and it's really fantastic for finding local articles. Local blogs, you know, I know in San Francisco there's 7 by 7, you know, out here in New York, obviously there's Curbed. There's, you know, so many different areas have kind of those local blogs where you can get some great information. And school district sites. You know, providing school information, I think that's really kind of a must-have. You know, is it a snow day? Is it a teacher work day? You might think, well, that has nothing to do with real estate, but that's okay. Because a big piece of your content strategy has to do with positioning yourself as a local expert, as knowing the community, as being a trusted resource. In terms of types of content, so there's all different types of content. So first of all, there's links to articles. I always call that the low-hanging fruit. That's one of the easiest pieces of content, where you find a great article and you click that Facebook share button or you click that tweet button and you share it out on your social networks. Now, by the way, when you do that, when you're sharing a link, don't just share the link, right? Put a little commentary in there. Like if I saw an interesting article from Inman News, I would share that on Facebook, but I wouldn't just share the link. I would say, I just read this great article from Inman about, you know, the housing market. What do you think? Right? And leave some sort of commentary versus just a link. Blog content. You know, if you're someone who's a blogger, do we have any bloggers in here? Okay, awesome, cool. So if you're a blogger, that's fantastic. Maybe you have a written blog, maybe you're a video blogger or a vlogger. That's fantastic content, and that, you know, should really kind of fit into your overall strategy. How often a week are you going to be creating blog content, and then how often does that fit into your social strategy? If you're creating content, if you're creating a blog or you're creating a video, it's probably not going to just get posted once, right? You might post it once to Facebook on a Friday, and then tweet it out Saturday morning, Sunday afternoon, Monday morning. And so kind of thinking through the process of content, especially the content that you might create. Photos. So photos, I think, are probably one of the easiest types of content because, you know, we're all walking around with smartphones. We're all walking around with iPhones, Androids. Some of you probably have, you know, if you're like me, I've got a bunch of photo apps on there. And photos are one of the best sources of content. If you look at Facebook, one of the number one things that you see as you scroll through your news feed are photos, right? So here's a quick photo tip. I call it 30 photos in 30 days. So imagine if you took a Saturday, and you took a Saturday, maybe you took 2 hours on a Saturday, and you drove around your local community in your neighborhood, and you took 30 photos. So you take a photo of the downtown Main Street, you take a photo of the historic building, you take a photo of the neighborhood park, a photo of your favorite coffee shop, a photo of your favorite pizza place. And then with those 30 photos, maybe you Instagram them, or maybe you use an app or two and kind of enhance them, you know, make them look really kind of fun and interesting. Well, now you have 30 days worth of content that you can then post to your Facebook page, you can post out to Instagram, Pinterest if you're on Pinterest, Twitter, and it's really as simple as that, as creating your own content in terms of photos. One of the things that's really fun to see is as I've been sort of progressing through social media with real estate, is I'm seeing more and more agents using their own photos on their website, on their blog. I'm seeing far less of the stock photos, right? You guys know what I mean, like the hi, shaking the hand, right, with the stock photos. If you can have those real photos, that's really what connects with people. Videos, another great source of content. There's so many great video apps where you can create, you know, quick and short videos. Of course, you've got professional video tours that you might already be doing for your listings, and those can be pieces of content you're posting on social. But also just quick videos. I know some agents who are using Instagram video. They're taking 15 seconds worth of video, and you think, gosh, what could I do in 15 seconds? Well, I've seen some agents, you know, do sort of a sneak peek into a home where all you see is the door opening, and you hear something like, I'm so excited to present this new house, or this is coming soon on the market, or just kind of give a sneak peek into something that they're working on, or a client that they're working with, you know, or a quick testimonial of, hey, you know, it's so great to work with so-and-so. I can't say enough great things about them. So videos are a great source of content. Questions are also a really good source of content. Questions like, how old were you when you bought your first house? If you had a choice, would you live in Manhattan or Queens? Just kind of simple questions. Questions that are really relevant to your brand, relevant to your neighborhood, relevant to what you're doing. But questions can be a great source of content. Simple questions, by the way. Don't make them too complicated. So I want to share a few ideas for curating content, for finding really, really good content. This is one of my favorite apps. This is an app called Zite. Zite, Z-I-T-E. Zite is an awesome app. It's an iPad app. It's also an Android app. It's also an iPhone app, Android. What's great about Zite is the way Zite works is you can plug in subjects. So you can put in real estate, housing, New York, San Francisco, wine, whatever your interests are. You put your interest into Zite, and then what happens is Zite scours the internet and finds topics that are relevant, or finds articles that are relevant to that topic. And what's nice about Zite is the more you use it, the smarter it gets. So if I had a section about, let's say, San Francisco, it would scour across the internet, have all these different interesting articles about San Francisco. I could flip through it in a really kind of beautiful magazine format. And if I liked an article, I would give it a thumbs up, and I would see more of that. If I didn't like it, I would give it a thumbs down. What's nice about Zite is you can share automatically to Facebook, you can share to Twitter, you can save it to Evernote if you're an Evernote user, email it out, things like that. Another great app for content is Flipboard. And Flipboard's another really fun app. Anybody here use Flipboard? A few of you? So Flipboard's really fun. Flipboard is similar to Zite, but the difference is with Flipboard, instead of seeing subjects, instead of seeing real estate or Denver or housing, you're going to see specific news sources. So if you love the New York Times, if you love the Wall Street Journal, or different news sources, you can pull in specific news sources right to Flipboard, and then again flip through, find interesting articles, share them out. You can also pull in your Facebook feed and your Twitter feed, which is really interesting. It's really kind of interesting to see your Facebook news feed in a format like this. I always seem to find things that I never see before on Facebook, and I can reshare those, post those out to my network. Another one of my favorite sites for content is a site called Houzz. Have any of you checked out Houzz? Yeah. I have spent way too much time on Houzz. It's very addicting site. So what you're seeing here, this is the iPhone version, but there's an iPad version. There's also a website. The reason why I'm showcasing this is Houzz has some wonderful sort of ideas for decorating, ideas for different rooms. You can search for different rooms. And what's interesting is all these little taggy things. You can click on the tags if you wanted to, you can buy that bed, you can buy that chair, you can buy that plant. But what I like about it for social is it's kind of this kind of stuff is like eye candy for people, right? You think about HGTV and why people love watching all those HGTV shows. It's because of kind of these beautiful type photos like this. So, things like this are great to share out, to kind of go, hey, do you like this kitchen or do you like this kitchen? Really, really kind of a fun site in terms of just finding content, things that are really going to resonate with people in your networks. Google Alerts are a great source of content also. I know I talked about this, I think actually my last two sessions I talked about Google Alerts. But Google Alerts are actually a great source of content as well. If you've never done Google Alerts, you just literally go to Google and type in Google Alerts. It'll take you right to it. And one of the nice things about Google Alerts for content is you can put in cities, you can put in a school, you can put in communities. So I know for myself, when I was curating content for real estate brokers that I was working for, we would have different Google Alerts set up for 4 or 5 different neighborhoods. We would have Google Alerts set up for different schools and different things that were happening in our community. And then what happens is anytime that name, that word is mentioned, you get an email. We would get like a daily email, kind of a daily digest email. And what's nice about that is it comes right to your email. And let's face it, we're all in email probably far too much, right? So it comes right to your email. And now you have a list of articles all relevant to New York City or all relevant to Seattle or whatever city you might have put in there. And then you can share those out on your social networks. Another really great source of content is Twitter. And I know I touched a lot on Twitter earlier today with some of my earlier classes. But Twitter's a great source of content. Just about every news organization is on Twitter. And regardless if you are personally on Twitter or not, you can really leverage Twitter for content. One of the things I love that I've been able to do is on Twitter create a local news list. And this is something any of you can do, right? When you're thinking of content, you're thinking of the content grid, and you want to post local content. So what I did on Twitter is I went in and I just searched for all my local news stations, my local TV news stations, my local blogs that I knew about, local newspapers, just sort of all my local news sources. And I came up with a list of about 28 sources on Twitter. So I put those into a list. And so now what I could do is, a few times a week I could look at Twitter, I could pull up this local news list and just really quickly see if there's anything really interesting that if I'm on Twitter, I'll retweet out. But if I'm not even on Twitter, if I'm just using this for content, I can scroll through here and go, oh wow, that's a really interesting article about a San Francisco restaurant. I'm going to click that link and now I'm going to share it to my Facebook page, right? Or I'm going to share that housing article to my LinkedIn page or whatever it might be. So, just kind of again thinking about networks with Twitter, you don't necessarily need to be on Twitter to really leverage some of the content that's available. And I think Twitter is a really great source for content. Okay, so far so good? Yeah? Okay, awesome. So I want to highlight a few examples here of some really kind of great blog content. And I got to give the divas a shout out one more time. I know I mentioned them earlier in my last session, but I will say, first of all, I've done a lot of blogging. I've blogged for years. I probably have written, 400 blog articles or something ridiculous. Blogging is not a simple task, and it's not for everybody, but the people that are doing it well, I really want to highlight a few people. I feel like Shavi and Kim are rocking it. You guys are doing an awesome job out in Seattle. And one of the reasons why they're doing really great with blog content is they're just really consistent. It's like half the battle right there. Really consistent, and they're really just true to who they are. I think sometimes in real estate we try to kind of fit into this mold of who we are and things like that, and they're very true to who they are, very true to their personal brand, very true to the clients that they work with, and they also kind of have no fear in being fun, being playful, and you'll see things about their clients and communities that they specialize in. So really great source of. Just want to give them a shout out. Great stuff that they're doing there. I also got to give Sean Carpenter a shout out because Sean's been blogging for quite some time. Carp's Corner is a great blog. Sean is a trainer for Coldwell Banker out in Ohio and just really does a fantastic job. He does a post every Monday. He's one of the fastest bloggers I've ever met. He's the type of person where if he has a really good experience and he wants to share it, he just will bust it out and type it out or take a quick video, put it out on his blog, and which is really great because I think sometimes when it comes to blogging, for those of you who blog, sometimes we have a little bit of analysis paralysis where we want to think about it and take our time, right? Which, it's good to think about it, but sometimes it's also good to just act, right? So Sean's is a great example. If you're a blogger or you're thinking about blogging, just definitely one I would check out. Okay, I want to touch on Google Plus for just a second because Google Plus is definitely a great source of content. And there's a couple cool things that are happening with Google Plus. When Google Plus first came out, everyone kind of called it the Facebook killer, right? Or it's is it replacing Facebook? And it's really been interesting to see Google evolve and grow. It certainly has its own voice. I really feel like it's a completely separate platform from Facebook. One of the cool things about Google is the ability to do Google Hangouts. And have any of you seen a Google Hangout before? Okay, a few of you. So what a Google Hangout is it's a video chat. It's a video chat, and you can have kind of like Skype if you're familiar with Skype. But the cool part about it is you can have up to 10 people on a Google Hangout, and they can be private. So it could be a private call with your client and an agent and the husband who's in Paris and their parents who want to be involved in the decision. You can have this sort of a conference call, but a video conference call. It can also be public as well. It can be public. It can be on air, which is a lot of fun. On-air hangouts. If you go into Google Plus, you'll see that there's a lot of people who are really starting to do on-air hangouts and starting to kind of create content. And I have a screenshot here. So myself and Deborah Trapin and Kelly Mitchell, we do a weekly Google Hangout on-air live show, which is really fun, called Breve TV. It's on Mondays. It is live and a little unscripted, so it's a little crazy sometimes. Okay, maybe a lot unscripted. But what I'm seeing is that especially agents who want to do something new and different. Is a Google Hangout, is a live show, is that for everybody? Absolutely not. And I'm not saying, everyone in here needs to do that. But I want to give you some ideas if you're thinking about how can I create content of value. What's interesting about doing a live on-air hangout is, so we do it live. We do it on Mondays at 4 o'clock. We promote it so people are involved in Twitter and they can tweet us and kind of have an engaging conversation. But then it also records simultaneously on our YouTube channel. And then it's a piece of content that lives forever, right? So then a week or two later, we could take that piece of content and promote that on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I just want to put this out here because I know, being at Gen Blue, you're much more techie than probably 90% of the agent population that's out there. You guys really get this stuff, which is awesome. And it's something to think about when you're thinking of your content strategy for next year. If you're thinking, okay, I probably need to start creating content, because it's one thing to curate content. It's one thing to find great articles, but if you can start to create your own content, whether it's photos or a blog or a video or something like this, it's really interesting. We're seeing some people use it just privately in calls with clients. And this is a great way to kind of start, dip your toe in the water. If you're thinking, oh, that's kind of cool, do a private hangout with just a phone call, with either a client or a colleague, try it out and see how you like it. It is free, so every once in a while it's a little buggy. The saying, you get what you pay for, right? So sometimes it's a little buggy, but we're also seeing, small groups who are doing their meetings, working virtually. I have a virtual assistant who's in Seattle and I'm in San Francisco, and we meet once a week on Google Hangout. It's free, I can do it from any device. Really kind of a cool new technology that we're seeing. Images. So I want to touch back on images because I know I talked about this earlier, but images are one of the best pieces of content. I have a few examples here. There's Deborah up there. Beautiful sunset photo. And images really make a big difference. Like I said earlier, it's so great to see that more and more agents are using their own images versus stock photos. I have some of my favorite apps listed up there. Instagram is one of my favorite apps. Over, O-V-E-R, is a great app for putting text over a photo. Camera Plus, Snapseed. If you were just to go into the Android market or the iTunes store, there's literally thousands, hundreds or thousands of great apps. But I want to give you a few ideas here. So photos are really, when we look at all the different types of content being shared, video and text and questions and links, photos are one of the number one pieces of content that's being shared. And so what type of photos? So photos like community, neighborhood, views, downtown, coffee houses, pizza places, happy clients, buildings, doors, windows, gardens. I always say think beyond the listing photo. We've got some beautiful listing photos. You might have professional photos. Those could certainly be a piece of what you use on social. But remember, you could also use an Instagram photo or something where you're just kind of showcasing the detail of something. And I want to give you just a quick example here of what I'm talking about. So here's a beautiful photo. This is an amazing kitchen, right? Beautiful photo. This would probably be a photo you would see on MLS. And this photo would probably be great to put on social media. But what I did was I'm going to show you how I enhanced this photo to kind of make it a little bit more enhanced for social media. So here's an after of that. I'll go back. There's before. There's after. So I kind of like darkened it up. I added a quote across the top, love begins at home. I added my website across the bottom, katielance.com. You can see kind of side by side what that looks like. And the reason why I'm showcasing this is this photo right here, and you've probably seen photos similar to this on Facebook if you look at Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest. These are the type of photos that get a lot of engagement, right? A lot of comments, a lot of shares. One of the reasons is because they kind of evoke an emotion. It's not just, oh, that's a pretty kitchen, right? I want to show you how I did this. So I use a site called PicMonkey, picmonkey.com, P-I-C-M-O-N-K-E-Y, picmonkey.com. And there's a free version, there's a paid version, and it's really kind of a fun site to use. And I just want to share with you what I did. So when you go into PicMonkey, you could spend way too much time and press too many buttons. But I want to just share with you 5 simple things that I did to this photo. So the number one thing is I increased the saturation by 50%. Typically photos that have a really high saturation, are really bright, you probably noticed this on Facebook, pop, right? Those are the ones that people kind of stand out in your news feed. I added a border, I added a quote, I added my website, and then I saved it. And if I were to post this on Facebook, I would save it to my computer or Dropbox, wherever you save photos, and then upload it to my Facebook page. Okay, video apps. I want to run through some video apps here. So I mentioned earlier, video is a great source of content. And so I want to share here a few of my favorite apps. So there's some great apps that are out there. Pitch, PTCH. It's a really fun app. Videolicious. I know Matt was here earlier today doing some classes. Videolicious and Animoto. All of these apps, what I love about these video apps is they make it really simple. I think sometimes we get a little intimidated by video. We don't know what to do, we don't know what to say, we don't like what we sound like, we don't know what to edit and all that stuff. And these make it really simple to just capture a moment, a really simple moment, like a quick moment with a client, a quick moment of a couple features of a home. I want to give you a few video ideas because video content is a great piece of content. So video ideas that you could use with some of your apps, community videos. And it doesn't have to be a full-fledged video. It could be 3 things that you love best about your community, where you take 5 seconds, 5 seconds, 5 seconds, and you use one of the apps, it stitches it all together for you. You pick some music, it's beautiful, easy. Testimonial videos, right? Again, they can be short and sweet. Sneak peek videos, where you can kind of give someone a sneak peek into a home. A few video tips. So no one likes how they sound on video, all right, first and foremost. So you just have to kind of get over that. I hate how I sound. Like, I know I'm being recorded right now, and if I watch myself back, I would probably just, put my hand over my eyes, because no one likes how they sound on video. I always like to say be organized, not scripted. And if you're the kind of person that needs to be scripted, then maybe that works for you. For me, when I do videos, I just like to know what I'm going to say, right? I just kind of bullet point it out. I know how I'm going to start. I know how I'm going to end. I might have a few bullet points, and then I go. So it's a lot more natural. Shoot horizontally. So if you're using an iPhone or an Android, right, our instinct is to shoot like this, right, up and down. But if you're shooting a video that you want to post to social media, I really recommend turn the camera. Turn the camera, because if you shoot it horizontally and then you put it up on YouTube, it looks 10 times better. Right? If you're shooting it the other way and you put it up on YouTube, you've got those black bars on the side, right? So turn the camera, have a beginning, have a middle, and an end, right? And the beginning could be, hi, I'm Katie Lance with Katie Lance Consulting, and today I want to share with you my 3 favorite reasons for why I love New York City. 1, 2, 3. Thanks so much. If you have any other questions, feel free to contact me. I'm at katielance.com. Beginning, a middle, and an end. And a call to action at the end. So many videos I see, it's like, thanks, bye, right? Tell them what to do, right? For more information, please email me at blah, blah, blah. For more information, please contact me on my Facebook page or go to my website. Just, short and simple. All right, got a few more things here. I want to touch on Pinterest and Instagram because I always get questions about both of these, and both of these are great sources of content. So I just want to kind of give a shout out, I don't think Lindsay's in here, but to the Coldwell Banker Pinterest page. Pinterest is one of the fastest growing networks. The number one thing that's talked about on Pinterest is the word home. And what we found is the people who are on Pinterest are spending so much time on Pinterest, way more than any other social networks. I will say it's like 80% female. Nothing against the guys. There are some guys who are doing some great things on Pinterest. But what's interesting about Pinterest are all the different things that you can pin, kind of like a scrapbook, kind of like, pin boards back in the day. But what I love about what Coldwell Banker's doing is they're really kind of highlighting, bathrooms and chef's delight and dining rooms and swimming pools. All of these pin boards are great pieces of content, right? So if you're thinking, okay, again, what am I going to post and what makes sense and everything that Katie's been talking about, this is actually a great place to start. If you look at the Coldwell Banker Pinterest board, there's some great, beautiful images that you could take, post to your Facebook page. Obviously, credit back to the Pinterest page here. Same thing with Instagram. We're seeing some people in Coldwell Banker do some really amazing things with Instagram. Christoph Chu, I always like to highlight Christoph because he's, really has such a great personal brand in terms of luxury. That's his brand, that's his clientele. And he's really leveraging Instagram in a big way. He looks at his life as content. Right? So when he's out at a party or he's at a store or he's working with a client, if there's an opportunity to kind of snap a photo and tell a story or really kind of encapsulate something that has to do with his brand, he is a great example of that. I always say with Instagram, you got to get a little personal. So some of the things I Instagram, those are my boys right there. You'll see my boys on Instagram. You'll see lots of pictures of wine. I like wine a lot. Yes. So just like any other piece of social, you've got to get personal, right? Again, whatever you're comfortable with, right? I certainly don't share every single photo of my kids. It may seem that way, but I don't. So sharing things that you're comfortable with. I said this a second ago when I was talking about Christoph, but sometimes it's easy to get overwhelmed with content strategy and what you're going to post. I think one of the best things that you can do is just look at your life as content, right? Okay, you want to have a content strategy. What are you going to post to Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn? Well, what are things during your day that you can kind of tell a story about, right? You're at an office meeting. Who can you highlight at that office meeting? You've got 50 people in a room. Who can you take a picture of right there, highlight them, and put them on your Facebook page that afternoon? Right? Who has a success story? They just closed a big deal, right? And they're so happy because they just worked with the most amazing couple and they just relocated and they have 2 young kids and she's pregnant and they have a dog and a cat and that whole story. Wow, that's something cool I could tell. I could put that story out there, right? Or I'm at Gen Blue and I just met the most amazing people and I spent all day, in this, this or that or whatever. I mean, last night I was on Facebook. It was so great to see the pictures of Tom Selleck and, all the amazing things that Coldwell Banker's doing. So looking at your life as content and what are those opportunities to share, whether it's personal or professional. I want to give a few more ideas as far as questions. I talked about questions a little bit earlier. Questions are a great thing to post up to your social networks, especially Facebook. Facebook in particular is a great network to really have a conversation. So a few ideas here. Have you lived in your house for 5 or more years? This is a great question to ask. I encourage you to ask that on Facebook tonight or tomorrow. You'll get lots of comments, lots of replies. Some people will say, no, but I'm looking to buy a home. And then you can say, well, call me, right? But have you lived in your home for 5 or more years? What's the number one thing you love about your city? What's the number one thing you love about San Francisco or New York City, Seattle? Are you going to the holiday event downtown this weekend? Right? Are you going to such and such event? We all have events coming up. Just kind of simple questions. The whole point of questions is to get people engaged, right? To really kind of engage your audience. So you're not just posting something out there and going, well, that wasn't too interesting. So you really want to engage your audience, and creating simple questions can really do that. My last couple things I want to cover is just content across multiple platforms. So I always get the question, Katie, can I just have content and then put it somewhere and then push a button that just goes everywhere? And you actually can. I'm not going to tell you how because I really recommend doing against that. And the reason why is, sure, you could take your tweets and push them to Facebook and push every Instagram photo to Tumblr and this and that certainly saves you time. And I know as an agent you can't spend all day on Facebook, nor should you. But the problem with that is that every social network has its own nuances, right? It has its own kind of etiquette, right? And I'm sure some of you have been on Facebook and you've seen your friends that are pushing all their tweets to Facebook, right? I have a few of those friends, and I've gently reminded them that it doesn't quite work because a tweet doesn't really translate to Facebook. The content may be okay, but Twitter, you've got the @ sign and the hashtags, right? It just doesn't work because Facebook's different. So I always say, don't reinvent the wheel. If you've got a great blog post or a video you've created, don't just post it in one place. You can post it to all your networks, but how you talk about it's going to be a little bit different. So, if I do a great blog post, I might post it to Twitter, and I'll keep it short and sweet, right? I'll put the topic of the article, I'll put the link, I might put a hashtag or two in the tweet. I might tweet that article out 4 or 5 times over the course of 4 or 5 days. But then I'll also take that article and I'll put it on Facebook. And instead of just putting the name of the article, I'll write a few sentences. I'll say, I was really inspired to write this blog post because blah, 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 blah. What do you think? And then I'll also take that blog post and I might put it on LinkedIn, right? Or I might put it on Instagram if it's a photo. So I'm a big believer in not reinventing the wheel, but also just being really cognizant that every network has kind of its own landscape, right, and its own language, if that makes sense. I want to showcase someone who does this really well. So a good friend of mine, Raj Kassar, he's an agent in Southern California. He does this really well. And if you're someone who, maybe you're just kind of starting to dabble in social, or maybe you've been in it a while and you want to, looking for a couple really good examples, I really recommend that you check out what he's doing. So this is his personal profile. And I'm just going to showcase his different profiles so you can kind of see what I'm talking about, because he really does a great job of posting things on multiple platforms and really showcasing his brand. There's his business page. There's his Pinterest page. And one of the things that Raj does a really great job about is he uses Pinterest and Instagram to really kind of tell the story of what it feels like to live in Orange County, right? So he has boards about Orange County people, Orange County kids, Orange County things, Orange County hidden treasures, Orange County hamburgers, because as we all know, buying a house is much more than the four walls, right? Instagram as well, and you'll see some Instagram photos that are pinned to his Pinterest boards. You'll see some that are posted to Facebook. So he's a really good example of how you can leverage content, create content once, post it in a few different places, but really be smart about doing it. I want to share with you one thing about Instagram as well. So I have an example here of a photo that we posted for Inman News about a year or so ago. Beautiful photo of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. So just a regular photo with our phone. And then we Instagrammed it, we enhanced it. Actually, this was Camera Plus. So we Camera Plused it and made it really pop. We took that photo and we put it on our Real Estate Connect page for our event, because we were promoting our event. And then we took that same photo and we tweeted out that photo. And what's interesting about this is that, and some of you may not know this is kind of a little secret tip, every Facebook post has its own unique URL. So when you post something to Facebook, you can actually promote that post somewhere else. So for example, this photo right here, right? That photo, we took that link from that photo and we tweeted that photo out. So instead of saying just go to our Facebook page, we specifically said, check out this photo. And the way that you find the unique link for this Facebook post is you click the time and date stamp. Right? Because every post, whether it's a photo, a video, a status update, there's a time and date stamp. You click that, it'll open in a separate window, and you'll get this really long URL. But that's the unique URL that you can then tweet out or post to LinkedIn or post to, send that out to promote that specific post. We also took that photo, we put it on Instagram. And so you can see, again, same image, just translates a little bit differently across each platform. And this is something we did quite a bit of when I was at Inman. Okay, you guys are doing good. I know it's toward the end of the day. A couple last things here. So I would be remiss in talking about content strategy if I didn't talk about taking the online offline. I feel like this is a really, really important piece of it. We are learning so much about people through social that there's a big opportunity to take that online to an offline experience. I want to share a few of my favorite products for doing that. So Postagram is a really, really fun app. Have any of you used this? Not yet? Okay, very cool app. The way it works is this is actually an Instagram photo, this little thing right here in the middle. So you can take an Instagram photo through Postagram, and you can create a postcard a physical postcard that will actually get mailed in the mail. It's really beautiful, looks really nice. You put in their address, you put in a nice personal note, and it's a kind of a great way to take what you're doing online, those online Instagram photos, and maybe send a thank you card or send a note that you're thinking of somebody. What kind of a fun thing to do if you're working with a client, and they just, you've got that photo of them holding their keys or holding the sold sign, using something like this to send a physical note. Another fun kind of product with Instagram is a product called Stickygram. And Stickygram are magnets made out of Instagram photos. And I'm kind of addicted to Stickygram. I think I've bought, 5 sets of these or something ridiculous. But I think it's like $14.99 for like 6 or 8 or something. But the reason why I think it's kind of cool, especially for real estate, if you're working with a client and they just bought a house, think of sort of the possibilities. I always like to say with social, think outside the box. What if you were to take 8 or 10 photos of them in their house, kind of family photos, kind of telling the story of them moving in their house, popping the bottle of champagne. You take those photos, you can order a set of magnets, and it's something that kind of surprises and delights them. Like, wow, that's really cool, very thoughtful. And it's on the refrigerator, and just sort of a reminder of that moment, and who they worked with and that whole experience. So I just want to kind of give you a couple fun things. All right, my last few things, I think I've got like two minutes probably. I'm getting close to the end here. I know, I keep saying a couple last minute things, but I just had to throw this in because this is sort of a reward for being here at the last session of the last day, okay? So here's a few secrets nobody talks about, and I don't know why, but I'm gonna tell you the secrets. Okay, so extending the life of the post. Now, I kind of already let the cat out of the bag because I kind of already told you the secret, but if you missed it, I'm gonna tell it to you again. The secret is that every photo, every post that you post on Facebook has a link. And if you're active on Twitter, how do you extend the life of a Facebook post? A typical Facebook post lasts active for about 3 hours, which means Facebook pushes your Facebook post to their friends and people who like your post, and then after around 3 or 4 hours, it kind of goes down to the bottom of the pile. You ever notice why you don't see everything? Right? You don't see everything that your friends post because Facebook has this kind of fun algorithm that us Facebook marketers have to deal with. But how do you extend the life of a post? Is do what I just talked about. So you grab the unique link, you tweet that link out, you can post that link to LinkedIn, you can send that link out, versus email, whatever it might be. Another little secret that no one seems to talk about is that it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I see this all the time. I see agents who have the best of intentions. They come to a class or they hear a webinar and they're like, all right, I'm gonna do this. I got the content grid. I'm gonna post content, 10 minutes a day. I got it, Katie. And then they go on Facebook and I want to just say, oh, but you're doing it wrong. And so I have an example here, okay? I had to do this breakfast example because everybody still has that joke of, I don't care what you ate for breakfast. I still don't really see too many people posting about breakfast, but I wanted to use that as my example. So here's the wrong way to do it. The wrong way is, I just ate an amazing breakfast. Which you would probably say, who cares, right? Now the right way, if you really had an amazing breakfast, is to do this. Wow, what an incredible breakfast. The Ritz-Carlton Half Moon Bay sure knows how to do it right. Awesome photo of Eggs Benedict. And so I'm just showing this to you, and you might go, what's the big deal? But when you're gonna spend the time to have a strategy, to post to Facebook, to Twitter, to your social networks, a lot of little things make a big difference, and how you post makes a big difference. Again, I don't know why people don't talk about this, but I'm giving you the secret here. The other thing that you'll notice about this post is I tagged the Ritz-Carlton in that post, right? And on Facebook, you can tag people, you can tag places, you can tag restaurants. The way you tag, if you don't know, is you type the @ sign, and then you start typing the name or the company of whoever you want to tag. And you'll see it sort of populate. So when I did this, I put @Ritz-Carlton, and all the Ritz-Carltons sort of popped up, and I just picked the right one that I wanted to tag. The benefit to that is now the Ritz-Carlton Half Moon Bay gets a notification that I just posted about their amazing breakfast, right? And it's just a little thing that can really kind of extend the life of one little Facebook post. So I just want to share something, kind of a right versus wrong thing. To kind of take that one step further, here's a screenshot. If I were to share my amazing breakfast on Twitter, this is what it would look like. So I wrote, incredible breakfast, @Ritz-Carlton HMB. That's their Twitter handle. Knows how to do it right. Pick. And I would include a picture. And then I did a hashtag of amazing service. So, a little bit tongue-in-cheek. I don't know how many of you are posting about your breakfast, but I just wanted to kind of give you just a little taste of sort of, I hate to say the wrong way to do it, but the way that doesn't get as much engagement as really the right way to do it, and how you can leverage talking about kind of things that are everyday, and how do you leverage that with Twitter and Facebook and some of your other platforms. So in closing, use a content grid. I really hope you take that. If you need a copy of it, like I said, go to katielance.com, put your email in under the email newsletter, and you'll get a free copy of the content grid, as well as a number of content strategy tips that I talked about today. Leverage content from other sources, whether it's articles or videos or photos. Don't reinvent the wheel, right? If you got a great piece of content that you post today, there's no reason that if it's relevant in 6 months, you can't repeat that, or you can't do something similar. Right? Look and see what works best for you. Look at your life as content. A great place to start is right here at Gen Blue. You're here at this event. Don't miss this opportunity to talk about the fact you're at Gen Blue on your Facebook page or on Twitter or on LinkedIn, right? And showcase the fact, hey, I'm taking 2 or 3 days out of my business for me to get better, to improve, to learn and this and that. And I always like to borrow from Nike. So my last thing in closing is just do it, right? Sometimes we do suffer from analysis paralysis, so just do it. There's my contact information. katielance.com is the best way to reach me. You can also find me on Facebook, facebook.com/Katie Lance Consulting. I'm on Twitter. I'm everywhere. And I'll be around later if you have any questions. All right? Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of the conference.